"Now, I must look at you, Fanny," said Edmund, with the kind of smile of an affectionate brother, "and tell you how I like you. And as well as I can judge by this light, you look very nicely indeed. What have you got on?" "The new dress that my uncle was so good as to give me on my cousin's marriage. I hope it is not too fine, but I thought I ought to wear it as soon as I could, and that I might not have such another opportunity all the winter. I hope you do not think me too fine." "A woman can never be too fine while she is all in white. No, I see no finery about you, nothing but what is perfectly proper. Your gown seems very pretty. I like these glossy spots. Has not Miss Crawford a gown something the same?" You may tell from the quote that I am up to the exciting part of my Anne Elliot Book Week outfit, and that is the lovely gown. It's the bit that really is the make or break of any outfit like this. It's the things that people are going to notice the most. Now, as you'll remember if you've seen my other videos, I have a few rules around doing this, and one of those rules is only using up what I have in my stash and not buying more material and other bits and pieces for this project. Which means when it comes to making my Anne Elliot gown, while Edmund Bertrand might think that being all in white is the way to go, I will not be able to do that because I just don't have enough white cotton left in my stash after doing all my other layers. So I will not be dressed in white, which incidentally is never a smart thing for me anyway. Me all in white is just asking to get coffee down my front, to get paint stains on it while I'm at school. All in white's not happening. So what else would I choose for a Regency era gown? My first place to go, though, was to actually, I have to admit, rewatch Pride and Prejudice, my favourite 1995 version of it, and it was just lovely to watch that again. It takes me right back to 1995 when I was living in a boarding house at Luther Hi to anybody from Luther down there, and I had to convince all the girls that we were going to watch this Jane Austen. Some were right with me, some were a bit sceptical, but I think they all came on board. I, of course, got on and watched Jennifer Eel in all of these sorts of lovely outfits. I even researched some of Keira Knightley again, even though it's not my favourite version of Pride and Prejudice, just to get a feel for what patterns, what colours, what styles were around at the time. After watching the films, I got back to online research and I went to this excellent website that Candace Hearn has put together called Regency World, and she links a lot of pictures like these. I'll particularly link you to the walking dress overview that she has, because this is probably where I was at with picturing the whole outfit that I'm doing. And she says that while sort of early in the 80s, white was the general thing, by the sort of 18 teens sort of time, you're starting to get more colours and prints. Certainly sprigged muslins were a big thing, but the dress that I found really interesting on her site was this striped sarcenet from, I think, 1812-ish. The other one that I found on a Fabric and Fiction WordPress site was this one, which I'll also link there and below, which is this beautiful striped dress from the Nordica Museet. And I love the detailing specifically on this second one with all of this ribbon and stuff. Now, I'm not sure that I'll have the ribbon to do it, but you know, it's telling me I've got to start looking at the details. So what fabrics do I have in my stash that I might be able to use? This stripy cotton I picked up decades ago. I had half thought of actually making some sort of historical dress out of it, something like I'd seen in a magazine once, and never got around to doing anything. However, it's quite a coarse cotton and it reminds me a bit of pyjamas. So I'm not sure that this is the one for this project. I have this voile and it's quite nice because it's a much finer fabric, which is probably closer to what they would have had then. And I quite like this, and I think it could probably make up quite nicely. But then I found this shirting material that I picked up a little while back. Again, it's cotton, and I thought that could actually look rather stunning in the long Empire line dress. Right, so now that I've thought about the fabrics, it's to the pattern. Now that I've done all this research online, I've found that there are many different places you can go to find patterns, and I'll link you to some of the research below. But what I had done, some time back, I obviously thought that I was going to want to do a Regency outfit, because I picked this up when Spotlight was having a big sale of patterns and I needed one more to get up to the 4 or 5 or whatever I needed to get their discount. So I have this just sitting in my stash waiting to be used, and I think that the dress should work quite well for this. It's short sleeve. I might have liked long sleeves, but I can always add a bit of sleeve to it. I will probably make a few changes. You can't see the bodice of the dress in the pictures here, but it is very plain. I rather liked the ruched bodice style that you see Jennifer Eel wear in the 1995 version of Pride and Prejudice. So what I might do is take this pattern but adapt it a little bit. I will have to give it a cup size upgrade for these girls. I want to add the ruching. I might change how it closes at the back. I might do something with the sleeve. But the other thing I want to do is think about the embellishments, the way that you can start to pick up that detailing that you get in Regency clothing. I love the dress that Keira Knightley wears, specifically the way they work the stripes around the hem, around the waistband, and even if you look at the back, they play with some of the bias stripes as well. So I might try to do some of that if I've got enough fabric. This says for the dress I need 3.2 metres of 150 centimetre fabric. I have 3 metres. I was only ever planning to use that fabric for a shirt dress kind of thing. So I don't have a lot of spare fabric to play with to make sort of interesting stripes and matching stripes and all of that. So that's going to be interesting, because I think it's those details that are really going to make it. So that is my challenge, to get this dress made, to get all those lovely details that I would actually rather quite like in my Anne Elliot gown for Book Week. So join me as I get there, and let's see how this dress turns out. So here's the front bodice pattern piece. I've cut it out a size smaller because I've gone by my high bust measure, and I'm going to give myself now this larger bust adjustment, which will give me the extra space I need actually over the bust while still keeping the armhole and the underbust measure appropriate. So let me show you the first lines I'll draw. This here is meant to be the bust point on here. You can see the Regency patterns are actually cut quite high on the bust point. Now I'm going to draw a straight line above this notch to the bust point and down, and that will help me make the adjustment. So let me do that. Okay, please excuse the candle holding this in place. Okay, so you can see that's how I've made my line and cut it. So that is above the notch there, and then pretty much straight down. Now to give the extra space for my bust measure, and I am going to pivot it up here on the actual sewing line to give myself the extra I need for my bust, like so. So now, this has given me the extra 2 centimetres that I will need just here. What I have done now is cut a line, really doesn't matter where you put this, but somewhere leading to your side seam, because now I'm going to pivot and make sure that this is a 2 centimetre gap the whole way down. Okay, so I have made a cut from the bust point to the fold, and now I'm going to move this bottom piece down until the line matches this line on the bottom left, and that's going to become the new depth of my front piece. Okay, and so now I have to redraw this dart to take into account this extra width. Now normally a dart will sort of finish directly below this bust point, but because of the way this pattern's made, the bust point of the dart is sitting over and higher. So I will keep this as the point of my dart and just redraw it to take in the extra, what was it, 2 centimetres, probably 1 centimetre on each side, and do it that way. If I wanted to tailor it differently, I might put 2 darts, but because the front will have gathers, this won't be noticed. So I think just the one bigger dart will be fine. So let me draw that into place. Here we go. That is my new lining bodice front. Just putting that on there to stop it from rolling up. Now what I need to do is adjust this one to have the extra fullness for the gathering at the front. I've made 2 marks, one down here and one up here. That will be where the gathering starts and finishes. So I'm going to do a line there, there, and then just spread it out. I'm thinking I'll spread it out by probably no more than 10 centimetres, maybe 9, make it equal. So here it is. I've added 2 extra centimetres at each slash, hoping that'll be enough gathering just to give it a little bit of detail there. I don't want it to be overly full. I'm not giving it any extra length to give it any puff. So it'll be quite a tight gather. And we will see how that goes. I think I'm ready to cut out. Okay, so what I've decided to do is cut out this, then cut out the back skirt layer by layer, and then I will piece the rest of it together. So let's go. And I'll do it without cutting the bedspread either. Okay, well, I may not have cut the sheets on the bed, but I certainly did pin this to it quite a few times as I was cutting out. It was kind of tricky working out the best way to do this. I'm cutting on the cross grain so the stripe goes the right way, but it was starting to get quite tight. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do, instead of putting this piece on the fold, I am going to have to make a centre front seam for it, because there is just no way, if I'm keeping the nap the right way, and because this stripe is not two-way, like I can't turn it upside down because then the stripe will be wrong compared to the rest of the dress. So I have to keep it up this way, and there is just no way I can fit it in all in one piece. It's just not going to happen. So piecing is period, or so I've heard, so I will pop a seam into the front there, and then it should be all good. Okay, so here's the bodice back piece. I wanted to cut this on the cross grain, so I get this nice sort of chevron-y pattern going. Now, in order to match it up at the centre back, which is where the closure is, you'll see that I have lined up the stripes and drawn it onto my pattern piece. So now when I go to put it on here, I can again find my lines, and with luck, pinning it like this, I should have nicely lined up stripes on the back piece. So here's fingers crossed that it all goes right. Okay, and this is where we find out and see how well we've cut this. Look how those stripes match. Oh. Okay, that's appropriate that that song just started, because if you look closely, the stripe is upside down. Oh, I got it wrong. Hang on, music, stop. All right, that is very annoying because I really want these stripes. They should be matching sort of more like that. So, do I suck it up and cope with my stripes not matching the right way up? Or do I go back to all of my other pieces? And truth is, there is not a lot of decent sized pieces left. I've already cut out the bias strips for around the bottom of the skirt. So a lot of the big pieces have already been cut up. So I guess all I can do is sort through the pieces, see what I can do, see if I can get it to match or not. And maybe it is just good enough. Face it, this is only a book week costume. It's not for a historical reenactment or anything like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. But I had really wanted this to match up nice. So I'll see if I can manage it. If I can't, if there isn't a piece just big enough, I might just have to suck it up and deal with the stripes being ever so slightly off. We'll see. So I've played and played with these pieces to now make sure the stripe matches the right way up. And with all of them, I've just got a little triangle that is going to be out. However, this is where it gets folded for the buttons. So it will kind of be folded. If I take those pins out, it will kind of be folded about there. So technically, this join here will be hidden by the overlap. So I'm thinking, even though I'll have to piece this here, it will be hidden, and that way I'll be happier about these stripes matching properly. Last of all was the lining. I went with white because that's what I had. Certainly didn't have enough of the material to do a self-lining. For hand stitching, I like to mark out all my seams. It means that I get it straight and in about the right spot. So, back stitching. As you can see, I'm doing quite a close back stitch there. That was the centre front. And as it started to come together, I finally got around to doing the gathering stitch to gather up the centre front to the lining piece. Okay, so this is 6 train rides in that I've been sewing the bodice of my dress. As you can see, it's coming together nicely. I've just done the first row of gathers. Second row, I'm just about to gather and attach to the lining. So you can see how nicely the back's coming together with its interesting bias stripe. So impressed that this has the lowered shoulder line there, like proper dresses do. And look, it's been lovely hand stitching. I'm really, really enjoying it. Now, I am thinking of redoing how this sits from the pattern. The pattern has a button closure in the back, but I was thinking having buttons in the back here will interrupt with this sort of nice line that I've got going on. So I was thinking I was researching what ways were Regency dresses fastened. Some of the simple ones just had a tie at the neckline and the waistline, but I didn't really want to do that. Again, it will interrupt with that. Buttons were used, but they were expensive, and like I said, it will interrupt the line. Probably if I had a lady's maid, I would be sewn into this dress, and that would then mean that fits together nicely, and as she sews me into the dress, it would work nicely. But I don't have a lady's maid. So, of the period fastenings, probably hooks and eyes would be the most likely thing to use. But again, I'm not really flexible enough to go the whole hooks and eyes by myself, which leaves me in a bit of a quandary, which is why at the moment I have left the side seam open, because here, don't report me to the historical reenactment crowd, but I am seriously thinking of putting a zip in the side seam so that I can easily zip myself into it. I'm thinking that I will keep this closure here at the centre back with hooks and eyes, so that if I decide down the track that I want to keep it more historically accurate, I can then take out the zip and reclose that side seam properly. But at least for now, me not having a lady's maid, it means I can get into the dress by myself without having to call on anybody's help. And well, that makes it really practical. And face it, as I keep reminding myself, this is only a book week costume. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Those are my watchwords. I must keep reminding myself. So what am I doing next? I will pull together the gathers for the lower bodice, tack that down. In fact, I'll tack all the way along. I will finish these seams here where it joins in preparation. Then I will start on the sleeves. For the bottom here, I'm not actually going to attach the skirt to the bodice. I'm thinking that I will have a strip of fabric, like a waistband, that sits there, probably just out of this blue. So make it as wide as the blue. It will sit there. Then I can enclose all of these in that sort of waistband. I am hoping I will have enough bias strips to be able to go over the top of that with a bias, so that I'm keeping up that sort of biased strip thing. But we will see how that goes. For now, I'm going to work on getting this bodice finished and then attach the waistband. Then it's time for the skirt. Yay. Okay, so here's the loops of the back fastening. I was going to show you how I sewed them, but I realised it really wasn't showing up well with this dark blue thread. So I'll have to show you how to do the loops in a separate one. I had to do my loops this way because the metal loop would have shown. So now I've just got to finish off this edge. And you can see that's the back of it. I'm just going to fold over a little bit and sew that down so it covers my stitching. That will give me just enough overlap so that it will look quite neat when it's all done up. On the left side, I have folded it right on the centre back and put the hooks right there on the centre back. And because I've lined them up with the blue stripe, it's made it exceptionally easy to hide the black hook. So I'm pretty happy with how that's going. And this is why doing hand sewing at home definitely is not as quick as sewing on the train. She is lovely, but she is a real distraction and makes sewing difficult. But like I said in other videos, I would not have it any other way. She is adorable. How can you not want to scratch that head for her? Scratch, Laurie. Don't you just love it when the stripes match? So this is at the end of my first week of hand sewing. I have the sleeves on. I put the hooks on the back here as well. I still need to bind around this neckline here, but I'm holding off to wait and see how much I've got left of the binding at the bottom of the skirt. So I'll just leave it like that for the moment. The gathers are looking lovely and the fit seems good. I will also have to finish off the inside armhole. I don't know if I can show you here. But I will probably use some bias binding and bind that to finish it as well. But I am really happy with how the bodice is looking at the moment. Bonus. So to work out if I had enough bias to do around the neckline, I was also going to have to piece together the bits around the bottom. I have to admit, after a while, all of this stripe matching was getting a bit tedious. It would have been so lovely to have that bit of extra fabric to not have to do it. But really, it is so satisfying at the end to see how the stripes match. I mean, look at it. Matching stripes are just so yummy. Gotta love it. So here we go, this is the skirt side seam, and I really wasn't sure I would manage to match the stripes given how little fabric I had. The big issue was, because the stripe's not symmetrical and I was doing it all the same way up, as you can see, I had to choose as to whether I matched the gold edges of the stripe or the navy. I sewed this part first and then I thought maybe I would prefer to match the navy. So I just shifted it slightly while I was stitching and ended up matching the navy stripe, and I thought that looked a lot better than this. Now I may have to go back and change this one, but what I'm planning to do is put a wide band of bias material. Hang on, let me get it and I'll show you what I mean. Here we go, this is the band of bias material that we're talking about, that I'm going to put at the bottom. So given that it's possible that that will be covered sufficiently that it's not too obvious, that it's a slightly different match, I think I can probably get away with that there and not having to change it. But otherwise I am so happy that the stripes actually lined up on the side of the skirt as well as there at the back of the bodice. I always think it's little details like this that truly make a Regency gown a Regency gown. So quite excited. So here I'm just pinning my bias strip that I made to the bottom of the dress. I want to check that I've made this long enough to go around the base of the skirt, because I'm going to need to cut more bias binding for the neckline, and I need to know whether I need to add any more to this before I start worrying about that. I've got some pieces measured out, but if I can use them for the neckline rather than for this, it will save me having to go through the last of my scraps and see. I've had to do an awful lot of joining, as you can see, for these bias strips, because I really just didn't have enough of any major pieces left to give me more than, say, 30 centimetres at a time. But that's good. I don't need to add any bias to that. So now I can cut the rest of my bias for my bodice, which is a bonus. So come and meet my sewing companions for the weekend. This is Freddie. This is Tiggy. Say hi, Tiggy. They have come for a visit, just for the weekend while friends are away. So I guess this is the today and my yesterday of this project, putting in a zip. I'm using an invisible zipper here down the side seam, just rolling the zipper over so I can backstitch sort of in the ditch, nice and close. So here we go. This is my first try on of the dress, and oh my goodness, it fits. I can't believe it. Whoops, let's hold it up right. Look at that. It actually fits. Yes, hi dogs, thank you. I am really impressed. Lengthwise, it's pretty much perfect. I haven't done the hem yet, and I want to put that bias band. I wasn't sure if it was going to be a bit short and that I was going to need to use that for the extra length or not. But at the moment, that is really... Dog, can you off my dress, please? Come on, Freddie, move it. Off my... Thank you. Always the problem with the train. But I am really impressed with how that's come together, and you would virtually not know that there is a zip there doing this dress up, so that I don't need my lady's maid, aka my husband, to do up the hooks for me so that I can get into the dress. I am really loving how the gathers sit. I'm loving that it's not too revealing a neckline there, so while the boobs are up, it's not like they're on a platter, which, since I'm going to be wearing this at school, is probably a good thing as well. Yes, I could have cut it a little lower, but I don't feel the need to show off my assets. Oh, I am really liking this. You know what? I'm liking it so much, I think I could wear this practically all day. It's surprisingly cool and comfortable. So, as you can see, I am using all of the scraps to make some edging around the bottom of my dress. I've cut this wide bias, but I thought it might look nice if there was a strip going that way as well around it. So I'm taking all these last bits of fabric, which is not in any great length, as you can see, and just piecing it together to be attached to the bias strips, and I'll see how that looks around the hem of the dress, just for something different. Plus, I love using up scraps. Okay, so here we go. This is the hem of my gown, And this is Freddie again, wanting to take an interest. Thank you, Freddie. May I get back to it? Trying to make a video here. Okay. And this is the trim that will be folded over like that. So what I'm doing is I am closing the back of the trim at the centre back, but have a look at this. I am even going to be able to make the stripes meet properly at the centre back for the trim, which I really did not think I would manage to do. Interestingly, it coincides with this seam here in my bias strip, but the fact that this is going to match will be just amazing. So I'll sew this up, then I will be sewing my trim along this line, flipping over, and then finishing it at the bottom here to the hem. I hope that's really clear because it's kind of hard to show you with it just on my lap like this. Anyway, it'll all make sense, won't it, Fred? And finally, that last bit of running back stitch before my dress is done. Oh my goodness, what a project. And so here it is. This is how it looks all finished up. I so love some of the details in this. The way the stripes work, bits like the waistband and the band around the arms. How stripes match. It just makes me so happy to see how it's come together. Mum always used to say the sign of a good dress is that you could almost wear it inside out. It's beautifully finished. And I really tried to focus on the finish on this one, making sure that the seams look lovely inside as well as out. And so here she is in all her finished glory. I am in love with this dress in a way that I never thought I would be with a Regency era dress. I just can't stop playing with it, admiring it. I love it. So thank you for watching and joining me again. I've got one more major part of my costume to make up, the police. So I'll probably get that out hopefully next weekend. But I will be wearing this Thursday this week, and so I'm hoping I might get a few mini videos of me getting ready for book week. So keep an eye out. So thank you for watching, and join me again real soon.